Today we're going to talk about ProPlan Dog. So in this session we'll go through an overview of all of the products within the ProPlan Dog range. My name is Laura Hughes and I'm the Veterinary Nurse Development Manager at Purina. So first of all I want to talk to you about some changes that we're seeing coming through on our bags at the moment. So first of all, what we're doing is simplifying the names of our products. So as you can see from the chart on the right hand side of the screen, OptiStart is changing to Healthy Start, OptiBalance is changing to Everyday Nutrition, OptiAge is changing to Age Defense, OptiDigest is changing to Sensitive Digestion, OptiDerma is changing to Sensitive Skin, OptiPower is changing to Performance, and the OptiLight is changing to the Light or Sterilised. We have done some updates to the pack, so including some of the bags are now recyclable up to a 7 kilo weight. Anything above the 7 kilo weight in our dog range is currently reusable, but anything up to 7 kilos is recyclable now. On the packaging, we now call out the number one ingredient to make it much clearer, and we're looking at calling out any kind of benefits on pack and articulating what those are much more clearly. So first of all, what I wanted to do was just really give you a quick view of what the range is looking like, old packaging and naming conventions to the new versions, just so that you're really clear. The products themselves haven't changed, it is purely just a packaging update and a name refresh to make it clearer for the end client. So when we talk about ProPlan, we want to think about why would we want to choose ProPlan? Well, firstly, we talk about high quality ingredients. So we've got selected cuts of chicken, lamb or salmon as the number one ingredient within the product. And that really helps on kind of multiple different areas. Firstly, it's palatability, because as we go through this presentation, I'm going to talk to you a lot about the science and the research behind these products. But ultimately, if the dog isn't going to eat them, they're not going to get the benefit from them. We then talk about great digestibility. So we'll come on to this in a bit more detail. But one of the things that you will start to realise at Purina, we do love to talk about poo. And digestibility is a measure of how much they're being able to use of what you put in and how much is coming out as waste in return. And then we talk about nutrient quality. And when we talk about nutrient quality, the analogy that I like to use is if you think about making a roast chicken on a Sunday afternoon. So on the first day that you've cooked it, you've just cooked it fresh and you probably have the best cuts of meat. On the Monday, you have some of the remaining meat and you make a chicken casserole. You're reprocessing it and it's aged a day as well. And then on the Tuesday, you might use the remaining carcass and any meat that's left to make a chicken soup. All three of those examples, chicken is your protein source, but either through reprocessing or time, the quality of that chicken is diminishing. So we look at using both kind of the first day one analogy that I was talking about, so that it's the best cuts of meat. We also talk about having a range of plant and animal-based protein sources. So what we want to do is get the amino acids from proteins coming from a mix of plant and animal-based sources. According to the WSAVA nutritional guidelines, that's still classed as the gold standard for advanced nutrition within the world of pet food. So why else do we want to feed and recommend ProPlan? So when we look at ProPlan, we're going to talk about lots of things, but we talk about it being a multi-grain formula including rice. So some people have a perception that rice and particularly grains are bad, but actually animals have kind of adapted to be able to utilise grains exceptionally well, and actually they are highly digestible for them. This product is also what we call fixed formula. So in case that's a term you're not familiar with, when you look at pet food, there are two types of pet food. You've got an open formula product or a fixed formula product. An open formula product may have changes to its recipe from one production run to the next, whereas a fixed formula product will have the same ingredients in the same quantities each and every single time it's produced. That's really important because for those animals that have a stomach of steel, an open formula product is no problem at all, and they never have any issues. But for those that are a little bit more delicate, having a fixed formula product where you're guaranteeing you've got the same ingredients in the same quantities is really important. And then we talk about stool quality. So hopefully you may have seen the fecal scoring chart on the right hand side before, but this, I appreciate, is often a bit of a marmite of a poster. So people either love it or hate it, there's not much in between. But the really nice thing about this is if you think about those conversations with clients and you say to them, what are your dog's motions like? You often get an answer like, fine, normal, no problem at all. Actually, when you use the fecal scoring chart and ask them to point out which one they see, you often see they point to a 3 or a 4, which is the bottom two on the left-hand side. Actually, and ironically, the ideal poo is a number 2, so it's a nice little play on words. But actually, that's a really nice way of opening up that conversation. Oh, you've told me that his poos are a 3. That might be suggesting he's not digesting the food as well as it could be, because ideally we're looking for him to have a number 2 poo. And so that gives you an opportunity to start that conversation with the owner. So we're wanting those ideal number 2 poos, and we talk about wanting kickable, not skiddable poos. So think about if you misplaced your welly in the park, is it going to fly up into the air or smear along the side of the welly? We also talk about the other analogy I quite like to use, because we want to get the owners thinking not only about what does it aesthetically look like, but what does it feel like as well. So I always say, if you think about the toy grabber machine at the end of the pier, so you've gone to the pier, you're on one of those teddy toy grabber machines. If the grabber grabs hold of the teddy bear, those claws come round the teddy bear's head, they grab onto it and they stay out like nice claws. If you miss the teddy bear, those claws come back in on themselves. If you use that analogy and think about when you're picking up your dog's poo, if your fingers are being that nice grabber that's caught the head, your claws or your fingers are staying outwards. But if they're coming in on themselves because they've missed the teddy bear, that probably means it's a much softer poo. So it's a really good way to think about it and get your clients to think about it from a texture and consistency point of view. Within the Pro Plan range, we also have a palatability money back guarantee as well. So we guarantee that they'll like it, and if they don't for whatever reason, they can claim their money back as well. And within each product of the range, you will see that there are what we call functional ingredients or combinations of nutrients that have been proven to promote a targeted health benefit. And we'll come on to those in a bit more detail as we go through this presentation. Okay. So we split the range into the life stages, which are your puppy, adult and senior, that you can see on the left hand side. And then across the top, you can see what we call the lifestyle products. So those are the products that are maybe designed for sensitive skin, sensitive digestion, your light product, and then your performance product as well. So within each of the blends, we also cater for different sizes of dogs. So we cater for those smaller mini dogs, which is your dogs up to 10 kilos, your medium dogs, which is your between 10 and 25 kilo dogs. And then we have, within large breed, we have 2 different types. We have our large breed robust, which is more for your barrel shaped breeds, and your large breed athletic, which is more for your cone shaped breeds. And I'll come on to that in a bit more detail later on. So let's have a look at the Puppy Healthy Start product to start with. So this is available in your small and mini, your medium, and your large breed athletic and large breed robust formula.
Okay, so let's have a look at the puppy product. So there's a few key standout ingredients that we want to talk about today. The first is colostrum. So colostrum has been proven to support the puppy's immune system by up to 50% more, and we'll come on to that shortly. It contains DHA, which is important for their puppy's brain and vision development. And it also contains a prebiotic, specifically beet pulp, and that helps the microflora balance within the guts.
So first of all, I just want to talk to you about the specific blend that is the Healthy Start blend. So this is a blend of nutrition that contains bovine colostrum. And that has been proven to support the immune response in these puppies. So when we talk about puppies and their growth, we talk about having to support what we call the immunity gap. So the period between when they get mum's passive immunity to when they're fully vaccinated. And that's why we're normally putting special precautions in place, like don't let them go out on the floor, don't let them mix with unvaccinated animals and things like that. So actually what we did a study of 2 groups of 12 dogs. They were all aged between the ages of 2 and 7 years old. They were both fed exactly the same diet, but one group was supplemented with 0.1% bovine colostrum. Both groups were given their standard canine distemper vaccination, which was part of their normal routine care, and then we took blood and fecal samples every 4 weeks. The reason we took blood and fecal samples every 4 weeks was to be able to look at the systemic and the localised immune response to that vaccination as a result of either being on the control-fed diet or the colostrum-based diet. And the results were actually astonishing, because what we saw was that if you look at the chart in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, what you will see is that for both groups, so the darker line is the colostrum-based group, whereas the slightly more gold line that's slightly lower down is the control fed group. So if you have a look at the control fed group first, what you can see is they start off with the same level of canine distemper virus antibodies. They have a slight spike after that booster vaccination, as you would expect. And then over time, over the next sort of 10 weeks from that booster vaccination, the antibody levels are dropping down to that lower level and then maintaining at that lower level. Where when you look at the results for the colostrum-based puppies, adult dogs, sorry, you'll see that they not only did they have a spike, but they also maintained that level of antibodies all the way along. So they had a more significant response to that virus. So that shows that they had more antibodies ready to fend off and protect that dog against that virus. So that's really quite significant in relation to maintaining that antibody level as well. What we also saw was improved levels of antibodies within the feces as well. So they had a higher localized immune response as well. And we saw a more stable and more diverse gut microflora. So this is really something that's quite important when we think about puppies with those developing immune systems and with those puppy poos that we were talking about earlier. So let's first of all think about our small and mini dogs. So owners of small and mini dogs like to think that their dogs are dramatically different to other dogs, but there are some differences. However, these are things like higher metabolism, so they need a more energy dense food. Due to their smaller stomach, they can't just have a larger volume of food. They also need additional B vitamins to support that energy metabolism. And within our small and mini range, we also include something called a calcium chelator, and that has been proven to reduce tartar by 36%. One of the challenges that we know that some owners of small and mini breed dogs can have is brushing their teeth. So as much as we say the ideal and gold standard is that you brush their teeth every single day, we know that for some owners you will say that to them and they might as well shake their head and go, no, it's never going to happen. Whether that be because of the dog's temperament, they can't see how they could build it into their lifestyle, the dog's too squirmy, they've got the same number of teeth in a very small mouth. Whatever the challenge is, we know sometimes that can be difficult. So within the small and mini product, we do have this calcium chelator, which has been proven to reduce tartar content by 36%. So now to go on to the large breed. So I'm just going to build all of these areas here, because when we look at the large breed, we've split it into two based on body shape and activity levels. So we're the only manufacturer that is currently working like this. So we have your athletic large breed dogs, which are your more deep chested dogs, or cone shaped dogs as we tend to talk about it. And I tend to say that from an activity level point of view, they have 2 speeds, either go or stop. There's probably not much in between. And then you have your robust dogs. So these are the ones that we say are your more barrel-shaped body. And their activity level tends to be more plodding. It's not necessarily meaning they're slow, but they're more consistent with the pace at which they'll run around the park. So it doesn't tend to be, sort of that go or stop speed. It's that consistently going at a pace. Because if you think about those dogs, the way in which they're expending their energy is very different. You know, your athletic dogs, where they're go, 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 and then stop, they're going to be burning through energy quite quickly. Whereas when you look at your robust dogs that are maybe plodding a little bit more, they are going to need less fat because they're plodding rather than having those extreme bursts of energy. So we need to take that into consideration and tweak slightly when we're looking at what we're feeding them. So now we go on to the everyday adults, everyday nutrition range. So this is available in the small and mini, the medium, the large breed athletic, and the large breed robust. So when we look at the everyday nutrition range, this is very much designed as the adult product for those dogs that have gone through their growth and development and are wanting to maintain what they've done. So this has chicken as the number one ingredient, which supports higher digestibility, but also the bioavailability of nutrients. And actually, from one of the studies that was done, we saw that fresh meat as the first ingredients produces a better amino acid and fatty acid absorption than using dried meat as the first ingredient. We also make sure that it's put into that process right at the end, so it's only cooked once. So again, that's coming back to what I was talking about earlier in relation to that kind of roast chicken analogy, where the meat in the product has just been cooked once. So we then have our sensitive digestion. So the sensitive digestion is available in medium puppy, medium adult, and adult large breed athletic. Now, just to be really clear, the sensitive digestion is not designed for those that have digestive issues or GI issues and ongoing problems. The sensitive digestion is the one that you would use. I normally say it's for your bin raiders, the ones who occasionally have something they're not supposed to eat. So
now we're going to talk about our sensitive digestion. So this is our adult sensitive digestion product. So it contains carefully selected ingredients, including beet pulp. So beet pulp is a prebiotic, and that helps to feed the good bugs within the guts and helps with that good bug, bad bug balance. It provides a balance of both soluble and insoluble fibres to promote good fecal quality as well. So for those dogs that occasionally get upset tummies, this can be a really good product for them. And the types of dogs I'm talking about are not the ones that have an underlying condition, but it's the ones that maybe occasionally raid the bin and then get a bit of an upset tummy or eat something they're not supposed to when they're out in the park. It's about trying to support them for those moments in time. This product also contains egg. So egg is very high quality and very high digestibility, and the overall digestibility of the product is really good. And that's very helpful when you think about animals that have got a slightly more sensitive digestion.
So we then have our sensitive skin product. So this product is available in medium puppy, small and mini adult, medium adult, large breed athletic, and adult 7+. This is also suitable for gestating and lactating bitches, but specifically for the puppy product if you did have a gestating or lactating bitch that was also having sensitive skin issues. You could then look at using the puppy product for that period. So how does this product work? So again, similarly to how we talked about our sensitive digestion isn't for those with an underlying GI issue, this is not for those with an underlying skin condition. So the idea of this diet is it's to try and support kind of healthy skin and promote good coat quality with your skin specific nutrients. So I would say where the sensitive digestion I talked about, that's the product you would reach for maybe your bin raiders or for those that have intermittent loose stools. For your sensitive skins, I would say that's the ones that maybe you notice that every now and again they itch a little bit, but they never cause any damage, things like that. Or maybe you've got owners who are doing things like showing them, breeding them, or they're longer haired, or some of your doodles where coat quality is a bit of a challenge. That could be where it's really beneficial to look at this product from a kind of skin goodies perspective. So we've got lots of nutrients in there that we know support the skin. So we've got high quality protein. More than 80% of the animal protein in this diet is coming from salmon. And we know that 90% of a hair is made up of protein. So actually the protein within the diet is really important when you're looking at hair and coat quality. We've got those omega-3 and 6 fatty acids. So omega-3 fatty acids are a fantastic natural anti-inflammatory, and omega-6 fatty acids are really helpful when it comes to the skin barrier. So helping to keep moisture in and moisture out and keep that balance. And then we've got what I call our skin goodies, which are our vitamins A, B and zinc. And we've also got our vitamin E and vitamin C as antioxidants. So antioxidants mop up those free radicals that would otherwise be causing damage to the cells. We also talk about this product having a selected number of protein sources to reduce skin discomfort with food sensitivities. So this is particularly helpful if you're thinking there may be a response to certain proteins, because we have got a limited number of proteins in this product compared to the other products within the range. And we also don't include wheat, beef and dairy. So we then have our light or sterilised product. So we say that this is the diet for weight loss, for foodies and for feeders. So it's a great all-round product, and this is for the diet that you would be reaching for those dogs that are body condition score up to a 7. Anything above a 7 should ideally be on the obesity management, but anything up to a 7 you could use the light or sterilised product. The one point of difference for this product versus our competitors is that we base it on where the current weight of the dog is. So not on the expected weight, on the current weight of the dog. Now that really helps from an owner compliance point of view, because then the owners will quite happily go, oh, yep, he is that weight. Okay, I'll feed him to that weight. Where if you said to that owner, okay, you've got a Labrador, sorry for picking on Labradors, but they're easy to pick on when I'm talking about weight. You've got a Labrador, he currently weighs 43 kilos. Well, Labradors as a breed can be between 25 and 32, so let's aim for him to be 30. Telling that Labrador owner they need to lose 13 kilos off that dog is quite a lot. But if you're saying to them, do you know what, he's 43 kilos, let's follow the feeding guide for 43 kilos. Then when he comes back in a month's time and he's 42 kilos, great, let's follow the feeding guide for 42 kilos. And you're then just feeding the dog that's in front of you as well. It's also really important when you think about the light diets to try and really work with the owners to understand body condition score. So making sure that everybody within your clinic is happy and comfortable to do body condition score, but also happy to talk through with an owner so that they can understand it as well. We don't want owners getting fixated with what the scales are saying. We want them to be seeing what's in front of them. So when we look at this diet, we feed for the current weight, but we've also got 3 different feeding guides within this product. We've got the weight loss, so when the animal's needing to lose the weight to get down to that ideal body condition. You've then got weight maintenance, the idea being once they've sort of got down to the weight they need to be, maintaining that loss, you keep them on it at the maintenance amount. And we've also got a sterilised feeding amount. And that's designed for those dogs where maybe you know their breed are predisposed to putting on weight. And so you might say, okay, you're an adult dog, you've just been neutered. I'm going to proactively put you onto this at the sterilised feeding amount to maintain the good weight and body condition you're in at the moment, rather than having to use this reactively to try and get weight off you. This diet comes in at much lower fat and lower calorie. So the fat content of this product is 9%, and that actually comes in at 40% less than the standard adult diet. But this product also contains a blend of fibre and complex carbohydrates to help promote that satiety, so that feeling of fullness. And it has been proven to support gradual healthy loss and reduce the risk of weight rebound. So this is losing fat, not lean muscle mass, due to the high quality protein within this diet. But that also helps from a palatability point of view, because the owner will then see that the dog's still really keen to eat his dinner but seems to be satisfied, and therefore they'll be happy that he's getting what he wants and what he needs. So again, my one takeaway, if there's anything you take away from this session, it's that you feed a light sterilised diet to the current weight the animal is, not to their expected weight. Okay, so hopefully you guys will be familiar with this, but these are our body condition score charts, and this is what we want to encourage the use of where possible. So we use the validated 9-point body condition score system, and this is what has come out of a Purina lifelong study from Purina. And actually what it showed was that dogs that were maintaining a healthy life throughout a healthy weight throughout their life not only lived up to 2 years longer, so these dogs lived on average 1.8 years longer, but they were also considerably healthier. So we saw less severity and later onset of things like osteoarthritis as well. And actually, when we look at weight loss, steady and healthy weight loss reduces that risk of rebound. So as much as I think for most of us, you'd naturally love to lose all of it overnight, the reality is that's not often sustainable or safe to do it that way. So we're looking for nice, slow and steady weight loss. And you would probably on a light diet be looking at no more than probably 1 to 2% weight loss. Within obesity management diets, we tend to talk about the weight loss targets we would have for a dog would be between 1 and 2% weight loss per week. For a cat, you would say between 0.5 and 1% per week. I would always use the lower figures for the when I was talking to a client. So for a dog owner, you would be saying on an obesity management product, you'd be looking for maybe 1% weight loss per week. If you're going down the route of using a light rather than an obesity management diet, you may be looking at maybe 0.5% weight loss per week. Okay. So we then have our performance diet. So this is the diet that you would use for dogs with a higher energy requirement. So what we would be talking about there that is those working dogs. It's not just limited to working dogs. You can use it for things like fussy eaters, or for those dogs that just aren't really food orientated. Dogs that have a higher burden, so maybe they're doing things like agility, flyball, activities like that, or those that just can't sit still or sort of struggle to maintain that body weight. It can be also used in pregnancy and lactation, particularly when you're getting to the latter stages and they're not wanting to eat massive amounts because their puppy burden is so big. It actually helps them to get quite a lot of nutrition on board in a smaller volume, and things like your rescue animals that need to be built up. The benefit of this food is that it's got an increased calorie, fat and protein ratio, which means that smaller amounts of food are needed, but it's also really palatable. So if you think about meals that you've had that have been more protein and fat rich, they tend to be quite high on the taste. So that really is very good for encouraging those that can be a little bit fussy or not wanting to eat that little bit more. And ultimately what we're trying to do is support these dogs' increased endurance, because we know that potentially either through working or the activities they're doing, or maybe just their metabolism, they are burning through energy quickly, so we need to be able to support that as well. And we've got this diet in comparison to the adult diet has 30% higher protein and 20% higher fat than the standard adult product within the range. So we then go on to our age defence. So our age defence is what we would historically have called a senior diet, but a lot of people don't like to think that their dog, once they're over the age of 7, is classed as senior, but they'll quite happily say he is an adult, he is over the age of 7, and therefore this is the right product for him. So within the small and mini, we talk about 9+, and within the medium and large, we talk about 7+. There are often different thoughts and theories out there as to when dogs are senior, and I know some people for larger breed dogs would talk about them being senior much younger than 7 as well. But we say generally you'd class a small and mini breed dog as a senior from 9 and a medium and large breed as senior from 7. So this is one of my favourite products within the range, just because of how spectacular it is and what the research is behind this product. So what we do know about dogs is that as some dogs get older, they lose the ability to use glucose as a source of the energy for their brain. And as part of the research that we've done, we've actually found that MCTs, which are medium chain triglycerides from coconut oil, actually act as an alternative energy source for some dogs, and it's like flipping a light switch. So they lose the ability to use glucose, which they normally would have used as a source of energy for the brain, and having a diet containing these MCTs is like someone flipping on that light switch and giving them an alternative energy source. Now, if you think about the animal that's coming into clinic, you might see an animal with their owner and say to the owner, "Oh, how's he getting on?" Oh, yeah, fine, no problems at all. And then comes the but. And the but are often associated to some of those changes in kind of cognitive function. So it might be, oh, he's getting a bit dithery now. He tends to sleep a lot in the day. Tends to wake up at night. He'll ask to go out in the garden. Then 10 minutes later, he's asking to go out again. All things like that, and kind of changes in their behaviour and interaction with them. And actually, for some of these dogs, it's just that they've lost the ability to use glucose as a source of energy for the brain. So by providing that alternative energy source, it improves the kind of responsiveness, interaction, and kind of curiosity for life. And so this is something that can be really important. And what this blend also does is it supports the aging processes with things like antioxidants, so helping to support the free radical damage that might be happening as well. We've got our omega-3 fatty acids as a fantastic natural anti-inflammatory to support the brain as well. So when we look at kind of how this is working, it's very much about supporting that brain and giving the energy supply that's needed to the brain. So we've got those medium chain triglycerides that are providing that job. The fantastic thing about this is if that is the challenge that that senior dog is facing, you will see an improvement within 30 days of going onto a diet containing these MCTs. So just to be really clear and really transparent, within the adult 7 plus or senior 7 plus product, we have the MCTs in there at a level of 5.5%. Then within our veterinary diet range, we do have our NeuroCare product, which has those MCTs in there at a level of 6.5%. So that's for when your dogs are getting older. As that cognitive decline is sort of continuing to increase, you could then look at going towards the NeuroCare product, which is kind of that next step on. So we've got the MCTs in there at the level of 5.5%, and we've got a blend of nutrients, including the omega-3 fatty acids, your antioxidants, vitamin C and vitamin E, to support mopping up those free radicals and limiting the damage to the cells of the brain. So I hope that has helped your understanding of the ProPlan dog range. If you do have any questions, feel free to please reach out to us and we will be happy to help you.
So now I'm going to go through a quick overview of the veterinary diets that we feel like you may potentially be using for some of your dogs. So the first diet is our canine HA, which is our hypoallergenic diet. So just to explain a little bit about what that is. So our hypoallergenic is a hydrolyzed protein. So just to explain what hydrolyzation is, just in case it's a term you've not heard of before, hydrolyzation is a process where you chop up the protein. So the easiest analogy I tend to use is if you think about a star, and that's the protein. If you were to chop that star up into triangles, the dog's body would no longer recognize it. The HA can be used in dogs of all ages, and we use the hydrolyzed protein is soya, so that's less hydrolyzation is required than versus other sources, which can result in a bitter taste to the animal. It's always worth making you aware that the kibble is visually very different. It's a very light beige colour, so when you're often expecting a traditional brown kibble, it can be quite off-putting when you open the bag and first see that light kibble. It's also worth noting that what you put in is very light, and therefore what you put out will also be very light from the feces perspective. This diet is also exceptionally digestible. It has a digestibility of about 95%, and so that means for every 100 grams you feed, you'll get about 5 grams of waste out in return. So you will find the bulk of the feces being much smaller than what they're used to. Now, if you're using this diet as part of a food elimination trial, we do recommend that you use it for at least 12 weeks before you consider any next step or challenge. So there are lots of additional benefits of the canine hypoallergenic. So you've got those medium chain fatty acids. They're really easy to digest. They've only got a 2-stage process to break them down. The diet is highly digestible, as I've already mentioned, and it's got those omega-3 and 6 fatty acids to support the skin. So we then have our DRM, which is our dermatosis diet. So this is the diet for skin conditions and can be used to challenge those adverse food reactions. It contains herring, pea and rapeseed and is good to be a challenge diet following on from a hypoallergenic elimination trial. And this again can be used in dogs of all ages. It works as a product for novel protein sources. So this is looking at protein sources that dogs wouldn't have been exposed to before. It's high in your omega-3 fatty acids, which are a great natural anti-inflammatory, and that's really good when we're particularly thinking about skin and coat condition. The additional benefits of this product, it also contains arginine. Arginine helps to support wound healing. We've got our key amino acids, which are the building blocks of collagen, which is important for the skin repair and maintenance. And we've got those omega-6 fatty acids to support the skin barrier. We then have our canine EN range. So this is a diet that you would use to manage intestinal disorders in dogs. So the EN dry can be used in dogs of all ages, but for the wet food, it can only be used for puppies for up to 5 days, although adults can have it longer term. Now, this diet works based on lower fat, as we know fat is harder to digest when they're having digestive issues. It also contains a source of medium chain fatty acids, which only have a two-stage process to break them down rather than an eight-stage process. So we're putting less load on that already compromised gut. And we talk about it being low residue. And ultimately, what we're talking about here is the digestibility of the product. So, of what you put in, how much are they able to use, and how much is coming out as waste in return. So the additional benefits within our canine EN diet are we've got those prebiotics. They help the good bug balance by feeding the good bacteria and helping them be happy and healthy and do their job well. We've got our omega-3 fatty acids to support natural anti-inflammatory processes. And we've got a blend of soluble and insoluble fibers to help with fecal quality and gut transit time, and is really palatable to support that compliance of the animal actually eating it. So we then have our Fortiflora. So this is our probiotic. So this is a dose of the good bacteria, and it's helping to repopulate the good bugs within the gut when you've had that gastrointestinal upset. So our probiotic comes in a 1 gram sachet, and it's a microencapsulated live bacteria. If you think of that capsule as an onion and think of the layers an onion has, as that metaphorical onion goes through the digestive system, the layers of that metaphorical onion or capsule are getting peeled away so that that live bacteria is still intact when it gets to the large intestine where it needs to do its job. Now, you can use this probiotic alongside antibiotics and it's still effective, and we have studies to prove that. We just recommend a 2-hour gap between the antibiotics and the probiotics so they're not directly competing with each other. It comes in a box size of 30 sachets because it can take up to 30 days to stabilise the gut balance in severe cases. But we do also do an acute 7-day pack for your short-term cases. Now, we use a specific strain of probiotic called F68, which is unique to us, and it helps to restore that gut balance. And this is really important when you think about the broader immune response, because about 70% of our immune cells are located in the guts. And so actually, it's really important we keep that gut healthy and the right balance of good bugs and bad bugs. Otherwise, that will impact on how the body's dealing with that anything else that may be challenging its immune system. So what are some of the additional benefits of the Fortiflora? So the Fortiflora, as I said, it's these little microencapsulated white dots, and they sit in a brown powder, which is a hydrolyzed protein. And that works really well as a palatability enhancer. I always say to you, all right, it looks a bit like gravy granules and smells very meaty, but that's what encourages the animal to lick it up and take it off their food. It's 1 sachet per day, regardless of the size of the dog. So there's no challenging kind of dosing and turning syringes and things like that. And you can use it from weaning all the way through, and you can also use it for pregnant and lactating bitches as well. So I thought it may be helpful to also cover off our joint mobility diet. So this is a diet that you can be using of dogs of all ages, from puppy through to senior. And we have tailored feeding guides in our manual, and it's clinically proven to help joint mobility and quality of life. You can use it for your joint sensitive breeds, so breeds where you know they're prone to joint issues, or your patients who are in their elder years and starting to show signs of arthritis. Now, we did a really substantial study of 146 dogs who had been diagnosed with osteoarthritis or a related joint condition, and they were part of a 2-month trial. And we assessed their mobility at the start of the trial, 1 month in, and at the end of the 2 months. And the results were really impactful. What we saw was that 88% of their owners and 90% of their treating vets saw an improvement to gait and mobility within 2 months. And the reason I think that's so impactful is when you look at owners versus a vet will have a very cold clinical judgment as to whether there's an improvement, whereas an owner will be willing for that treatment to have an improvement. So the fact that we saw more improvement from the vets than we did the owners is really significant. So what are some of the additional benefits that we have of our joint mobility diet? So we did another study with 45 dogs showing that it alleviated the clinical signs of those joint disorders, and the high protein within this diet helps to maintain that lean body mass and moderate fat. We also have puppy, weight loss, adult and senior feeding guides as well, so you can make sure that you're tailoring it based to the animal in front of you. I hope this information has been helpful, but if there is anything else we can do to help or support you, please reach out and we would be happy to help. Thank you.